trust is so vital for our schools and our impact as educators, but it can also become fragile in the ups and downs of school life. Trust starts up. And that's our topic in this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast, where we get to speak into the lives of those who answer the call. They answer the call at all levels and all roles as a part of an education system or a school, and they teach. They also coach. They're a part of the administrative team, or they lead the business office or the boardroom, or they're a counselor, or there's so many different roles that make up an education system, and it requires a team. And that's what we're kind of talking about today is that what does it take to really to deliver on our promises at a phenomenally high level? Requires a trust, a deep trust, because trust is so vital to our work. It's the oxygen of our schools, and we find that it requires people who know how to find that joy, right? They find a way to be a joy rather than a burden. They find a way to collaborate and to work together, and when we find that joy through a love for people, man, amazing things can happen. And so that's what we're going to explore today in this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast. Trust, right? It begins, there's all kinds of ways of building trust, but we found that a few things are really vital. And it's, of course, a commitment first in love, right? And as James Baldwin once said, love does not begin and end the way we seem to think that it does. Love is a battle. Love is a war. Love is a growing up, right? And that's a very important part of our maturity as educators and even as leaders is growing up and especially growing trust up, right? Who's the boss? That was the name of a television show that was popular way back. And there's all about the conflict in this home about who is really in charge. Who's the boss? Well, this seems like a simple question, but the answer can sometimes be confusing in some organizations. The organizational chart, it defines the important relationships of communication and accountability. So we know who's doing what, and that the necessary work gets done to achieve the mission and the goals. A supervisor who is an effective leader, they give clear goals and with a viable path to success. But the quality of the boss, it varies. That person, sometimes we're working with somebody who really is a strong leader and has clear direction, is very effective, and sometimes we don't, right? And it requires us to make adjustments. Our integrity, however, cannot be dependent on their integrity, because that's no way to live. We have to find a way of being consistent, of building trust up with whomever that leader is that we're accountable to. Trust is to human relationships what faith is to gospel living. It's the beginning place. It's the foundation upon which more can be built. Where trust is, love can flourish. And in our calling to love and lead, we recognize just how important this is to our work, to our school, to our influence. Trust starts up in the organization, the person to whom or the people to whom that we're accountable. So we have to make regular check-ins for clarification and expectations and plans, and because we work in a fluid ecosystem where adjustments, they have to be made, and sometimes quickly. It's a dynamic state, we're not in a static state where everything's kind of settled. It's always changing. And we have to learn how to adapt and sustain that trust. That requires disciplined communication. It's vital to trust, ensuring no secrets and no surprises. Very important part of building that relationship with the person to whom or people to whom we're accountable is no secrets and no surprises. When we see conflict in those relationships, it's often because of either miscommunication or broken promises. Now, sometimes those promises are explicitly stated, where we've kind of made it clear, and often they're not. Sometimes they're more implicit, right? And so part of our relationship, part of being mature adults, of growing up, of learning to love, but growing up is learning how to settle those questions, not allowing them to happen to us, but instead being very intentional about seeking clarity, seeking agreement, and then supporting each other. Right? Disciplined communication, and then consistent follow through on commitments. That contributes to a productive relationship. It helps us fulfill our assignments on time in a manner that meets or exceeds expectations. Going that extra mile, going beyond, is a great way to build trust up. Sustaining a reliably professional attitude and appearance, right, also benefits our whole team, and especially that relationship in our points of accountability. So have confidence. As Hebrews 13:17 says, have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority, because they keep watch over you as those who must give an account. They are responsible. Do this so that their work will be a joy, not a burden, for that would be of no benefit to you. Right? You want to be a blessing to the people that you work with, especially your boss, the people who you're accountable to, right? Accepting a leadership role has real consequences, because those in positions of authority are held to a higher standard, right? So with their influence comes responsibilities. And part of our job is to walk that journey with them and to support them in that work. So pray for your leaders. Pray for them, lifting them up as they make difficult and important decisions and navigate through sometimes some pretty emotionally charged situations. Encourage your leaders, expressing words of appreciation and genuine support. Stand by your leaders, resisting the temptation to undermine their role with gossip and even dissension, because where such enduring trust thrives, love and learning are sure to flourish. That's a joy in the work. So be a catalyst. Be a catalyst for trust this week, my friend, using your many gifts and habits to be a blessing to many, and especially to those in authority. Your leadership makes such a huge difference in the lives of people, some directly and some you'll have no idea until perhaps you meet them in heaven and they talk about the enduring impact that you had on their lives. The reach of an educator is long. It's enduring. And so we have to be very careful about how we build trust and build those relationships. And thank you for your commitment to that work, for battling through, or, we're especially towards as we enter the last half of the school year, things get even harder. We get tired. Some things keep coming up, and sometimes it's easy to withdraw. Don't do that. Stay connected. Keep building that trust, especially with those that are your leaders. Keep supporting them and building into them, because it makes such a huge difference in your life and in theirs. A coaching question to ask yourself at the end of each day: did I do my best to grow trust up today? Did I do my best to grow trust up today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.